Michelle, welcome to Show Studio.
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, I'm glad you're here. Now you were part of one of McQueen's sort of most memorable, it's become one of his most iconic shows. It's one that everyone talks about, which is Voss from Spring Summer.
That's right.
It's an amazing show, but before we talk about it, because I'm sure whenever anyone asks you about McQueen, that's all they focus on, but you'd known him for quite a long time, hadn't you?
He was part of my circle, because having worked in magazines, been in a band, having a lot of friends in sort of fashion, we sort of cut across quite a bit in various sort of nightlife situations. I think also Andrew Groves. I met him when he was when he met Andrew Groves. I think around about that time, which
was like 94, 95?
93, 94.
Wow,
I think.
Okay, so really early.
I've been really struggling to remember exactly when I met him. I think it was either the Superheroes party at Brixton Academy with Time the Times.
Yeah.
Or it was when they were dropping off some clothes at Boy in Old Compton Street, when my friend Eric was the manager at the time, and it's quite possible that it was one or the other.
One or the other.
But
and you just immediately became friends?
Well, no, we just sort of kind of in that sort of disco collective circle where we just sort of got on.
Yeah.
And then it was probably a couple of years after that time, it was 2000, wasn't it, Voss? So that I got a call from Sidoni, his right-hand woman at the time, asking me to come in to talk about helping out and doing something on the show.
Amazing.
So that was when we really sort of.
And had you ever discussed, because as you say, you know, Voss was Spring Summer 2001, so it was 2000 when it was done, and you know, that's quite a long time after you met. Had you discussed collaborating or doing anything?
No, it was a completely out of the blue thing. Because when I knew him, he was still, I think he was still a fashion student. So it was more kind of, like I say, part of the Boy London posse.
Yeah.
And then he went off into Isabella Blow fashion
world,
fashion trajectory, and I went off into my world. Of journalism, and then so the next time I met him, he was a bit of a superstar. So it was almost like, you know how when somebody like goes to the next level, it's like they're like off like a kite, and you think, well, maybe we'll see each other again. But we sort of lost touch quite quickly when he was busy.
Yeah, so busy. Yeah. And tell me, what did they say when they called you? Did they explain? Because obviously, you know, you were the woman in the box, which was inspired by Joel Peter Witkin, the Sanitarium. Did they explain all of that when they spoke to you on the phone? No, what did they say?
On the phone, they're like, oh, we need someone to do some modelling, and we thought of you because it's a particular kind of modelling. And I was like, yeah, okay, I think I probably know that this is probably not going to be the wedding dress at the end. This is probably going to be something stunty and McQueeny. So obviously I was really intrigued. So I went along. It was Monday morning, and I remember sitting at his coffee table, surrounded by all these amazing clothes, and there were some stylists sort of going through the racks at the time and looking at the paper. And I remember it was the day that Paulie Yates died. I think, oh, that's really sad. And that was just, I don't know why I remember that, but there's something about that. But and then Sidoni and Katie and Lee came to talk to me, and Lee started talking to me about it, saying, we want to do this thing. It's about beauty and death and regeneration and rebirth, and it's going to involve some moths, and you're going to be naked, and it's going to have a hood on, and going to be some shoes, but you won't be entirely naked because you'll be covered in live moths. And you'll be in this box, and this box is like glass, and like at the end of the show, the glass will all like break, and all the moths will fly out.
And what did you think?
And I sort of looked at him and I was thinking, okay. A million thoughts were going through my head. A million moths were going through my head. Despite the fact that I'd worked for many years with Skin 2 magazine, which is like the fetish fashion magazine, hoods were something that I really wasn't very keen on. I just didn't like the idea of them at all. So
really?
it's like,
that's interesting. I love that that's what worried you, the hood, not the moths or the nudity.
Well, everything was just all piling on me at once. But then I just thought, no way, this is a real chance to have some kind of incredible experience that you will never get again. So there's no way I can't do this. It's just too amazing. So what I said to him was, I said, I'm up for doing it. I said, but I want you to know that I'm doing it for art. And I have no idea where that came from. It just came somewhere out of the back of my head. And he sort of looked at the floor and laughed, and then he just said, I thought we all were, weren't we?
Oh, that's nice.
And then went off to sort of, go and do a massive fashion show.
Yeah.
So
how far before the show was it that they asked you then?
About 10 days.
10 days.
It was about 10 days.
And did you ever change your mind?
I had to like swear, promise, like brownies on, and not to tell anyone what it was all about at all, anywhere.
Yeah.
So like Big Brother style. So there was quite a bit of a process to it, because once I'd agreed to do it, the first thing they did is they sent me to see a guy from the English National Opera who did a plaster cast mould of my face.
Oh, okay.
So that they could do the hood, because the hood was actually made out of rubberized cement, I think they call it, like rubber cement. So it's like quite heavy rubber. Yeah. And then it was like two separate pieces, like the front and the back. And
was
then
it
they
difficult to breathe
together.
when you were wearing it? Or
it wasn't too bad, because same as the models, my head was sort of bandaged with all the bandages, and then I had two sort of plastic earphones in there, so I was in constant communication with the production team.
Oh, so they told you when the box was going to fall?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you all the tricks now, aren't I?
No, I imagined you didn't know, because I would have been so nervous knowing that it was going to fall.
No, it was a proper bit of showbiz, honestly. Everything was really, really thought out. Everything was very kind of actually completely done from the safest possible way. Yeah. And they did everything to reassure me as well. They were really diligent about how it was all going to work.
Sure.
So once I got my sort of headpiece created by this guy who worked with the English National Opera, we went over to, I think it was Elstree. It was one of the big British movie studio lots where they set up a box to show me how it was going to work. And George, Lee's partner at the time, stood in the middle of it. So I could see how it would work and how the size of the box would fall. Yeah. So that was reassuring as well, because I could see that the glass didn't fly everywhere. And as it happens, a friend of mine, Simon Drake, who's a magician, like a TV magician, I'd spoken to him about it and said, how is this going to work? He said, well, first of all, the tubes, you won't be able to breathe through them, because you can't breathe through more than 6 to 8 inches of tubing. So you would suffocate in like 30 seconds. So that will have to be done in a different way. Yeah. The glass will need to be safety glass, because that's how it works. How you break glass when you're dropping a window is it goes to 45 degrees, and then there's like a bolt that shoots out and hits it, and the impact of that just makes it all, like on a car window, so when you have a car crash, like that safety glass, so it all goes like that, and then it just drops. Yeah, rather than flying everywhere. Yeah. Then with the moths, I'm giving all the secrets away. Then with the moths were a mixture of live and dead moths. So
and did they stick some of them to you?
Yes. Yeah. What actually happened was they had the two leading entomologists come from Richmond. These butterfly and moth people were ever so English and ever so
really,
clean,
were they?
really nice, lovely people, lovely couple. And they brought this big tray of moths to stick on me, so all the really massive ones like that. Yeah. And then there was a butterfly net full of the other ones, the live ones. And what they did was they put this big butterfly net, which is about that big, underneath. They sort of laid it out underneath the chaise longue, and I had a scalpel, and it had like a net. It had a net at the top so that they were kept in there. And I had a scalpel, and when I got the call on my little earphones,
you had to cut it.
I had to cut it just before the end of the show, so they weren't just all kind of, lying on the bottom of the floor. So they would fly out. So that was that was part of the trick.
Timing wise, God, that's quite scary. Were you sitting up while the show was going on? Could you see anything?
No, because my actual makeup for the show was just white powder. Yeah. They covered me in white powder, and then they glued on the moths using eyelash glue. And there were these two lovely French makeup ladies who were doing it, and they were like, "Do not worry about being naked. We are mothers." I remember that. And so they glued all these moths. I got on the chaise longue like that. I was sure you remember the pose. And then they glued them all on me. At that point, I had the hood on as well, and that would have been glued on.
How many hours or minutes before the show was starting was that?
I went in the box about 7:15.
Okay.
And I think the show started at about 10:15.
Whoa.
So, apparently Gwyneth Paltrow was stuck in traffic.
Really?
I mean, I'm sure that was part of it, but my God, that was such an amazing show. You wouldn't expect it to start.
Could you see any of it through the...
No, it was a very...
Could you see anything, really? Because you must have seen enough to cut the net.
In the hood, you've got the hole where the tubes are going in. So it's like there was a hole about there, and then there were two little eye holes about that size, about there. So I could it was like being inside, a submarine, like or something. Yeah, like a telescope. So I could see tiny little bits. and I could hear, obviously, and it was really exciting because I don't know, I think you could sort of see in some of the build-up where you know that everybody's on the other side, and when I went into the box at 7:15, obviously it was a long time before everybody was coming in, and I could see all the chairs with all the names on. Like Isabella Blow, Nick and Charlotte Knight, Ronnie Wood, so on and so on. And it's like, oh, all these people are going to see my bum. And,
you never had a moment's nerves? You never had a moment where you were like, I don't want to be here?
No, there was a moment. It was just really exciting. Because it was theatre. I mean,
you must also, sorry, when you said you could hear, I imagine that must have been the most amazing thing, is when that glass did drop. Did you hear how everyone responded? Because did people?
It was. When the glass dropped, it was after a sort of build-up of a heartbeat. There was like a heartbeat that went up and up and up and up and up. So when the glass dropped, there was kind of like this silence, and then there was this cheer. So it was really exciting, and I wished that I could see all the models around it. You know, I knew there was more to it. And there were other things that I remember. Like I remember the red feather dress swishing against the side of the box. I could see a little bit of that through my little telescope. That was, it looked like being in some kind of sexy car wash. But the anticipation and hearing the noise and the build-up, again, it was quite easy to just be in the moment and just listen to it. And the guys were constantly talking to me on the headphones and going, you know, you okay? Another
a long time to
interesting thing about being in that box was because they didn't want the moths to get overexcited, they needed to keep it quite cold because that keeps them quiet. So there was, above me, there was a fan that was blowing cold air on me all the time.
Oh God.
Which was a little bit nuts, but they're like, when it gets too much, just let us know. So it was like constant, like, oh yeah, can you turn off the fan?
Why did they get you in so early into the box? I guess just...
I probably because they were starting to let people in from 7:30, 8 o'clock. And when they were letting them in, they needed me in the box so no one could see me getting in the box to ruin the surprise, I guess. Because you remember the two-way mirrors, everyone was looking at themselves. Two-way mirrors are probably 80-90%.
But you can kind of
probably see a bit of movement, so it made sense from the theatrical point of view to get me in early.
And when after it had smashed and everyone kind of, there was this reaction, did you have to stay there while everyone left?
I actually had no idea what to do because nobody came to get me, and I was like, we hadn't. I guess we just hadn't.
You just don't think about that bit, do you?
That bit. None of us. I hadn't thought about it. No one had thought about it. So I was like, oh, what should I do? I don't know what to do. And also at that point as well, I haven't got. I'm just thinking, oh my God, there's like glass everywhere, and I'm naked, and I've got this hood on, and I can only like. And then I was like, oh, I put my trainers underneath the clothes long, so I actually had trainers under there as well. So I was like going around for my trainers and all of that like crazy glass and dead moths and whatever, and live moths and what have you, and so I just grabbed my trainers and just trotted out.
That's so funny. And it was Lee McQueen, was he happy with it? What did he say to you after?
He was really lovely. What he actually did was he grabbed me by the hand. As soon as they got the head mask off me, and when they got the head mask off me, obviously I've had 3 hours in a rubber cement mask with a load of bandages around, so I just looked like a tufty monkey. I was just like,
and the world looks like you again, like very exciting.
Like a tufty monkey. And he just grabbed me. He was like, Michelle, I've got someone I want you to meet. And I was like, oh my God, what's this?
Were you still naked at this point? Or
no, I had a robe on. I had like a robe on and covered in eyelash glue with bits of moth on it, with big tufty hair. I'm thinking, who am I going to meet looking like this? And he pulled me into this little side room, which is sort of black, sort of curtained off area that was obviously like the VIP bit of backstage. He's like, Mum, this is the one who did the most, and I met his mum and dad.
That's so nice. What did his mum say to you?
She's like, oh, well done.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so nice.
And I said to her, I bet you're so proud of him, aren't you?
That's so sweet. Oh, yes. That's really, really sweet. And you did become very dear friends after that, didn't you?
Again, it's like my world and his world are quite different. I think what we ended up with was a funny little bond that you get when you've both been through something together that's a bit unique. I feel like being stuck in a lift, but on some kind of much more kind of grand level. And whenever I saw him, I just felt like we were able to cut through the bullshit really easy, just partly because we'd done that, and also I guess because I don't really do the fashion world thing very much, and having been out with him a few times and seeing like how kind of challenging it can be to be out in public when you've got people coming up to you all the time, wanting things, talking to you, and people are genuinely being nice, but
it's overwhelming,
dealing with their need to engage with you is stressful. So yeah, I think if we'd been in the same circles more, we would have known each other better. But I think really we still managed to have some amazing chats and some amazing time. I mean, one of the things that I'll always remember about Lee McQueen is how encouraging he was to me with my writing and telling me that I should do more and that I shouldn't just work for a living, sort of thing, which you know, he's right. That is, you do have to sort of honour your talent. So yeah, so I do feel like we did have a good bond.
A good bond. And it must be strange now because that show has, you know, as I said right at the start, it's become huge. It's become something that people always mention. Almost every article on Lee McQueen mentions that show.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you kind of, I guess it becomes othered in a way, doesn't it? Where it doesn't even feel like you, it becomes this whole other thing.
I just feel very honoured and privileged to be part of a work of art. And to be, you know, to be part of the palette, for want of another word. I mean, when I look back on it, I really do think, for me, that Lee McQueen is in the great tradition of grand British magicians, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, people like John Dee, for instance, who we think of as the first magician, who was in the court of Queen Elizabeth I. He was the one who used to create the great shows for them. He created a giant flying beetle. No one had ever seen that before. To people like Alistair Crowley, who talked about how the beast within and the whole thing about how we've kind of been in denial about our animal selves, and again that is something that McQueen really does engage with. And also Alan Moore, who's probably the greatest living English wizard, who talks about how art and magic are the same thing, and how magic and art how art can change things and help people to see things in different lights. And I can't help thinking that I was part of an act of magic. That really I feel like it was magic, and yeah, I feel very privileged. And yeah, what can I say without starting to? Yeah, no, it was an amazing thing. I'm starting to fan out here now, but yeah, it was an amazing thing. I feel very, very lucky. Yeah, well, it was incredible. Girl in the box. It was amazing. Thank you so much.